Hello, everyone. So where has been the voice of the HCPs in these last 2 days? Well, it's here, and it's now. Yeah, don't just look at us as free people on stage. We do represent 500,000 doctors. So please listen, because guess what? When we listen to them, they listen to us, right?
That's right.
So we prepare the content for this session for you to bring back home some key messages, some, let's say, conclusions about all these 2 days that you can practically then apply for, hopefully, your 2026 plans. Because we will today show you how you can achieve deep engagement strategies with the HCPs. And the first thing I want you to understand is that we have to be digital first. So that's very important to consider in your plans. Digital is at the center of this relationship that we have now with the HCPs. And I will now leave Azmain, Dr. Azmain Chowdhury, to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Daniela. Thank you for having me here, and thank you to all of you for sticking around until the end of the day. So, I'm here representing the voice of the HCPs, and especially the younger generation of HCPs. So, how do we consume content today? Well, you might know by now I am a content creator on social media. I am doing a master's in medical education, so I know what it means to be both a health education consumer and creator on digital. So the reality is, the more that we're going forwards, the more overloaded we are. We are, as an HCP, I am doing like nights and on calls. I am under so much pressure. I'm revising for exams and, casually coming to Dubrovnik to give a talk. So we're doing a lot of stuff, and I am not alone among my HCP colleagues in that we are drowning. There is just so much to do, and there is so much information overload that is coming our way. So how do we deal with it? Well, the more information that comes our way that isn't relevant or specific to us, we just tune it out and ignore it. So how do you actually get through to us? I'm sure that's what you guys want to know. Because I remember being in medical school, and the lecturers would stand in front of the 300 of us, and they would go through slides, 100 slides in less than an hour, and two extremes. Either they are full of text, blocks of text, and you're just struggling to keep up, or they're just random images grabbed from the internet, and you have no idea what the context or relevance is. So what do we actually value? We value visual, concise, and direct content. That's the way that I try to make the content that I create. If you go on my social media, my medical quizzes or my health explainers are all quick, to the point, graphic, visual. Authenticity. How many times have we heard that word in the past 2 days, which I don't think there is enough of in pharma, but that's what we value. We want, we want real. That's what we want. And, we're HCPs are just humans. After all, we want to have some fun. We, scroll on TikTok all the time. We like a bit of humor. We like to see the humans, right? That's why we're here, to see the humans behind pharma, the industry, and that's why I feel so honored to be here. And, we're so busy that, we don't have time to sit down in front of a lecture. If it's on a mobile, we can scroll through on our commutes and learn on the way. So who are the new HCPs? My personal opinion, and I think that many of my colleagues will share, is that the younger HCPs among us, we really don't get much exposure to the pharma industry and what you guys are all about. So we, want to feel included. We want to be part of the conversation. We want, our time to be valued. We want to have conversations that are relevant to us and our practice. We want to feel part of something. And part of that is, being on social media, being in peer-to-peer spaces and apps where we can actually genuinely connect with our colleagues and, with the pharma industry, for those of us who are interested in it. But so few of us know about what that means, and the communications that we receive and the education is just still pretty damn bland. So we're looking for content that actually solves the challenges that we're facing. The patients that come through our doors time and time again, and we're struggling to solve their problems. The common conditions where there are, constantly innovations that we find it difficult to keep up with, but that could be game-changing for our patients. We want to have that information in a concise manner that we can just digest at the end of a long clinic session. We want to feel that we are being talked with, not talked at. We want to feel that, it's not just information that's being dumped on us, but it's information being given to us in a way that feels authentic, and that, that you actually understand the struggles that we are going through, instead of, sitting, doing like a 1-hour e-learning where you have to click on every tab to check it off. Like, we want something that is actually relevant and that we can actually resonate with. So what works and why? Educational content doesn't have to be nice, it has to be alive. So, I love these pretty graphics and, all of the presentation style, but you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, the places that I put content, and the stuff that does well is not all the fancy editing and stuff. It's just what's real. What patients are searching for, if you look through Google Trends, what people actually want. So what do HCPs want? Well, as I say, HCPs are just normal people. I say that there are 3 whys and 3 hows of content creation. The 3 whys that aren't on there are entertainment, inspiration, and education. And we tend to focus so much on education that we forget that it's the entertainment and inspiration that actually helps those messages stick. So how do you actually go about doing that? You make sure that your content is bright, visual, graphic, straightforward. I don't mean simple in that you are babysitting them or infantilizing your HCPs. I mean just making it simplified and not overcomplicated. Make it concise, micro-learning, snackable, bite-sized content that they can consume in, say, 2 to 5 minutes or come back to. Engaging, make it inspiring and memorable, make it interactive. Put in some quizzes. That's what I'm known for, at least. So the problem is that this medical content is still linear, dense, and impersonal. It's very much like how I suffered through medical school, and change is coming. Because platforms like Xpeer offer this unique opportunity where they provide accredited education, where we actually get something out of it, a certificate, something to show for. There are agile formats where it's not just blocks of text, but there's audio components, image components, visual components, that kind of multimodal learning. And it actually has an authentic tone because we're not just being talked at. So where does Xpeer fit in the future of medical education? So HCPs of today and of tomorrow, we live on social media, in our apps, in these peer-driven communities. And the platforms that are really going to be successful are the ones that connect with us where we already are. And it needs to speak our language. So the authentic, relatable, snackable content, but also that is visual and, doesn't bore the shit out of us. I hope I'm not boring the shit out of you right now. Platforms like Xpeer, they should not just be digital for the sake of advancing technology. It has to enable human-centered engagement because it's all about the humans, the HCPs at the end of the pipeline, and ultimately, our aim is to help our patients. So in that, we are all aligned. So I think that we just need to talk to each other more in order to see how you guys can help engage us more in order that we can, in turn, help our patients. So it's not just about learning, it's about learning that sticks. Where, when, and how it matters most. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Azmain. So I still see the diehards are... We deserve it, so big clap, thanks.
Thank you.
I still see the diehards of the audience here, so thank you very much for still being here after these long and intense sessions. So today I'm here to represent the industry, right? The needs, where the needs begin actually. The needs actually come from scientific exchange. RSLs are the ones closest to the field, so they know exactly where the needs are in terms of medical education. And for medical affairs, it's really key to bring the most recent scientific updates to these scientific leaders. But hey, what about the other HCPs? Aren't they also entitled to get the most recent scientifically balanced information? And we often forget as well, in that line, we focus on our specialties, but we often forget as well the GPs, which are the first line HCPs, being able to influence the patient journey. So partnering with ourselves is key. It's really a collaboration, and that allows to build those robust, objective, and interesting patient programs that will make successful for them. And I think as well, one thing we can question ourselves is, why aren't the governments paying actually for these programs? Especially often they are even on the political programs. But hey, don't look up, act, right? Because together we, as an industry, can make the difference for the patients. So once the content is right, I think that's for sure, we all agree on that, content is king, content needs to be right. With several elements we need to also look at is making sure we build a robust and effective communication plan. And that does not only go with your own channels. We have definitely key partners like Xpeer here, where we should align with and make sure that we build these robust programs so that HCPs are aware of that program. Secondly, another key element is really about how do we present these content. The experience is key. And as you mentioned, it's accreditation. It's really a motivational driver. Of course, it goes under certain requirements, but I think that is key to bring really value to our key stakeholders. Another key element is about the engaging formats. Live, we all do live events, but what about the on-demand? It's often forgotten or not exploited. It's not the standard today, but it should be. And especially with this younger generation of HCPs, because they're very busy, like you mentioned, but on top of that, they also try to balance their work-life balance. I think we all know that, the work-life balance, but it's even more challenging, I would dare to say, from your side.
Very true.
And then it's micromodal learning. I think you clearly highlighted it as well. This snug, this bites, I think that is important, has a high retention. We see it across the quantitative KPIs as well. There is better engagement. Look at yourself. What would your behavior be if you need to look at a video of 1 hour or you have really more interactive sessions, short sessions? And then I think from an industry perspective, there is one other key element, is scalability. How can you build cost-effective programs having a global scope? So at MSD, we really use our ecosystem. We don't try to reinvent the wheel. We are not experts at all. We don't need to be the digital guru. We have key partners for that. So focus on your key partners. They bring much more value with their expertise. We need to focus on science, bringing the right drugs to our patients through our HCPs, and that is already quite a challenge, right? So make sure you work with the right partners to be able to come with effective programs. Let me share you one use case we had with Xpeer. We had a very interesting program which was on pulmonary hypertension with core audience being cardiologists, pulmonologists, and respiratory medicine. And we said, okay, but how can we bring that on? How can we continue bringing that content to our key stakeholders? And this is where we started the on-demand session, and we managed, thanks to that on-demand, to increase 40% complete participation rate versus a live event. Isn't that amazing? But what about if we did not do that? Isn't that a missed opportunity of our medical impact? And what about if we can now scale this to other countries, right? Cost effectiveness. I think that is key to remember. So you have two types of KPIs. We all know these quantitative KPIs, which we all look at in our dashboards, which is engagement, accreditation, certificates issued, participation, open rate, and all these kind of KPIs. But I do believe there is one that we really need to keep focus on as well. It's really the qualitative one. Is thanks to these programs, how can we influence the change in clinical practice? And what does that mean in the end for improved patient outcomes? Because that is in the end why we do it for. Just one more thing as a key takeaway is think 360-degree, right? Work with the customer experience, which is just going for the excellence, and try to collaborate with the right experts in your ecosystem. And this is what we really value and success into your medical education programs, and that will allow the HCPs to take informed decisions for their patients. Thank you.
So, as an HCP platform, our role is to meet them in the middle, right? So the simple formula we found 6 years ago is simple, really. It's video first, bite-sized content, as we said, multi-screen, but very important, mobile first, and certified, because this way they stick to the content, and we'll see now KPIs. So I will jump quickly into another case in practice of what we can achieve as far as KPIs. For example, a webinar. So we saw that webinar from MSD. This is another example, but just to see what we can achieve with this kind of simple strategy. We had 1,000 registration. Half of them went the day of the live event. It's quite nice, but what about the 500 who didn't show up? So having this strategy, really an on-demand strategy, repurposing, cutting everything, pulling up a campaign, make us gather 2,500 opt-ins at the end, no, for the sponsors. So it's really impactful. But speaking about impact, what really matters here is the average time they spend watching the message. 88 minutes, which is super high for that type of content, and with a completion rate of the content of 90%. So my advice for 2026, now putting in practice what you can bring home, is that, yes, the webinars, they are absolutely not dead, but you have to do it with an on-demand access strategy with third-party channels, not just your own. If you are not doing webinars, you have to do them. And my recommendation is to do once per quarter, approximately. Regarding accredited programs, I suggest also you do 3 per year is sufficient, 1 hour content, very targeted content, but this way we can also build a community of HCP, and they will value your brand because you're giving them a great service, no? And finally, record and repurpose everything you do, these live events of yours, these symposiums, these expert interview, and the same, put that content on these third-party channels. The expected results are here, they are demonstrated, they are not pilots anymore. So when you think about the 26 strategy, digital first, but also think of this digital-first approach in your budget planning. And this is what we aim for. We aim for having a real impact with intention to implement it to practice, as we were discussing yesterday, knowledge increase, and a really high satisfaction with the HCPs. So basically, I hope you enjoyed the session. With this QR code, you will gain access also to a full report we have on the matter, and we can share with you the slides from today. And in the Congress bag, you had our white paper on the future of medical education. I hope you like it, and I think we just have seconds for a question.
Got a minute, we actually got another minute, so a minute for question. If there's anybody with a question, very, very quickly, 60 seconds, put up your hand and we'll come around with a microphone. Any questions at all? Just there.
Thank you so much for the panel. I've got a question for Azmain. It was really good to hear the specific details you shared about your pain points and what's making you overwhelmed. But I heard this morning that pharma marketeers are overwhelmed as well. So if you had a magic wand and you could only ask for one thing that would have the biggest impact to reduce your burden, what would that be?
Very quickly.
biggest impact to reduce my burden would be... That is a hard question to answer in 30 seconds.
And you haven't got much time either, so...
Hey,
So-
you can think about it and post about it on social media and tag
I
us in.
can do.
Nice.
But I think the main thing is if we have conversations like this where our pain points are actually addressed, much like your workshop, Manaz, where, if we feel listened to as HCPs about our struggles, whether that's being overburdened, difficult patient populations where we're struggling to treat them, or overloaded clinics, whatever it might be, as long as there's that kind of connection there, and there is some relevance between the conversation, if you can relate the conversation you want to have with how we're actually feeling, I think that's what we want most of all. We want to feel seen. I think that's ultimately what we want.